Monday Night Raw starts off with CM Punk. He was cutting a promo. He ends up getting interrupted by Gunther. Gunther comes in the ring and he ends up mentioning some of the similarities that him and Punk have. He ends up saying that one of the similarities that him and Punk have is that they both have a massive ego. He ends up saying Punk's ego is built off the fans, while his ego is built off results of him constantly winning. Then he ends up saying that he's the guy and that he's gonna beat Punk at SummerSlam. Not gonna really go that in depth on the promo. It was a good promo, but it was nothing really major that either of them really said that really stands out. But it was a good promo. It was mainly carried by Gunther because Punk just sat there and just listened while Gunther took majority of the time speaking. I like what they did here though. I like that it wasn't nothing too major. Now they don't have many shows to build towards SummerSlam, so we are going to need more of a back and forth between the two. But Gunther did a good job in this promo. I'm excited for the match. Very interested to see how this plays out. I can see this going a lot of ways because I could really see Punk winning. I could see Gunther retaining to elevate Gunther as that top guy. I could see Seth Rollins potentially cashing in depending on whether or not his injury is a work or not. This could go a lot of ways. Very interested to see how this plays out. Very hyped for this match because this is what a lot of fans been wanting from Gunther, is that they've been wanting him to face main event guys. Because one of the main issues I will say with Gunther as a character is that they kind of make him avoid main eventers. Like they make him face like B tier main eventers like the Jey Usos and the Sammys, but they never make him face like the top guys. So I like that they are finally letting him face the top guys like the Punks. So very interested how this plays out because this is one of the more unpredictable matches at SummerSlam in my opinion. I can see this going a lot of ways. So I'm very interested to see how this match plays out. Afterwards, we're going to get Rusev versus Sheamus, continuing their rivalry. Really good match. Towards the end of the match, you end up getting Rusev tries to cheat. He ends up trying to use I forgot what the weapon is called. It's the thing that Sheamus typically carries around. I forgot what it's called, but he tried to use that weapon. Sheamus was prepared. He ends up hitting the bro kick, picks up the victory, getting his payback from I think last week or the week before, if I'm not mistaken, where Sheamus used the turnbuckle to pick up the victory. So I'm assuming this rivalry is going to continue. Like I said, if it was me, I would just do what you did with Carmelo Hayes and Andrade. Just do a best of 7 series and then just play that out, and then eventually I don't know who will win the best of 7, but if I was booking it, you could go either way. You could easily have them going after the Intercontinental Championship title picture, continuing that rivalry after the best of 7. But I'm interested to see how this plays out. But they put on great matches, so I hope they continue to just put on good matches and build up this rivalry and continue to build up this feud. But this was a really good match. Afterwards, we ended up getting a number 1 contendership match for the WWE World Tag Team Championships between the Creed Brothers, the New Day, and LWO. And I completely forgot the LWO even existed because they don't even use them, which I really don't understand why, because I'm not the biggest fan of them. But when you have a dead tag team division, one of your tag teams, it would be a good idea to use them more often. But I don't understand it, but they end up winning this match shockingly. Well, not really shockingly because they're the only baby faces on the Raw tag team division, if I'm not mistaken. And the Judgment Day are a heel faction, so you kind of need baby faces to go after them. So, um, they're going to lose. They're not winning. I like them in ring wise, character wise. They don't really have a gimmick, but the match should be a banger when they face the Judgment Day. The LWO are typically a good in ring faction. Character wise, they're not, but it should be a banger match. We already know how the story is going to play out with the Judgment Day retaining, with the numbers game and all that, but should be a banger match nonetheless. We end up getting Becky Lynch. She ends up cutting a promo. She ends up saying that Lyra Valkyria is very greedy and selfish and that she's hogging all the championship opportunities for the women's Intercontinental Championship. And then she ends up mentioning how greedy and selfish she is by going after the women's tag titles because on tonight's show, for whatever reason, they had Bayley and Lyra go after the women's tag titles, which made no sense. But she ends up mentioning that and how she's greedy and that it makes no sense for a woman to go after 2 belts. Like, how selfish could you be? Which I thought was hilarious. But then she ends up mentioning her winning 2 championships and ends up saying that her motivations was different and hers was to make history while Lyra's is completely selfish. Then you get Lyra Valkyria. She comes out and Becky Lynch ends up, they both end up adding stipulations to the match. Becky ends up saying that if she wins, Lyra Valkyria cannot challenge for the Women's Intercontinental Championship as long as she's champion. And then Lyra Valkyria ends up responding back, ends up basically saying that she wants a no DQ. Basically, she wants no disqualification, which is very interesting because I'm, which is very interesting because you still have Bailey in the mix. I'm assuming because this transition right into the tag match. Well, before that, you end up getting Becky ends up wanting Lyra to respect her and to shake her hand, but Lyra was prepared because Becky Lynch tried to attack her, but Lyra ends up hitting the manhandle slam, and then this transition into the women's tag match between Lyra and Bailey versus the Judgment Day with Roxanne Perez and Raquel. This match made no sense. I don't understand why this match was even a thing because they've been telling the story of Bailey and Lyra not getting along. Why are they teaming up for the women's tag titles all of a sudden? Like they just randomly put. I get why they did this match because they did this match to further the feud between Becky and Lyra because of course the Judgment Day won. They weren't going to lose. Becky Lynch ends up interfering in the match, costing them that match. So I get that, but I don't think Becky Lynch interferences was that big of a deal where it really moved the story that much to the point where you needed this match. Now, throughout this match, they were showing Bailey as like this super nice, positive woman, while Lyra is kind of like rejecting Bailey and is kind of confused. So I don't know if they're teasing a heel turn, because that's the only reason why I'm kind of thinking why they made it a no disqualification, because they're kind of showing like Bailey trying to be like this super nice person to Lyra. Like throughout the match, she's like tagging her in. She's like trying to hype up Lyra while Lyra is just more so confused of the situation. So I don't know if they're teasing a heel Bailey to cost Lyra the match, which I don't hate. But at the same time, it's like we don't get the conclusion of Becky and Bailey because it's like Bailey just completely forgot about Becky now. She's so focused on Lyra. So I don't know how you end that story. And to be honest, I wouldn't be mad at it completely because I kind of want to see Becky Lynch hold this title for a while. I ain't gonna lie. Becky Lynch has been doing great work with that Women's Intercontinental Championship that I want her to hold it for a long time. I'm gonna be honest. Her heel work has been great, and I want her to hold that title, but I wouldn't be mad if Lyra wins it back. But I don't know if that's the reason why they made it no disqualification, or they just made it just because it's the third match in the trilogy. But very interested how this plays out because I could see Bailey interfering in that match, costing either one, or potentially you could have Bailey turn heel. Like it could go a lot of ways. Very interested to see how this plays out. We end up getting the return of Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn returns. He ends up having his match against Karrion Kross. Solid match. You end up getting interferences from Scarlett. Scarlett ended up handing carrying across a steel pipe. He uses the steel pipe while the referee was distracted and picks up the victory. Not much to really go off here. I'm assuming this match has to be at SummerSlam. There's no way you're going to have Sami Zayn and Karrion Kross off of SummerSlam, especially when you've been building this feud since damn near before, even before WrestleMania. Yeah, because I think, yeah, Sami Zayn and Karrion Kross both missed WrestleMania as well. There's no way you're going to have two of your most over wrestlers miss both WrestleMania and SummerSlam. Makes no sense, especially because you've been building this story for months. Like this is one of your longest building stories you've been doing. So this has to be a SummerSlam match, I'm assuming. Interested to see where this goes. I'm gonna be honest here. As much as I don't want Sami Zayn to turn heel, I'm gonna be honest here. If Sami Zayn don't turn heel, this story is pointless. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like I like the story, but I'm gonna be honest, it's kind of dragging. It's kind of dragging a bit. It's kind of going on a little too long, and I'm kind of ready just for it to end. I'm gonna be honest with you. I like both wrestlers, but it's like, what is the end goal here? Because if the end goal isn't Sammy either turning heel or if this isn't going to turn Karrion Kross into a bigger star, but I feel like the only way you do that is by turning him heel. I don't know where we go from here. I really don't know where we go from here. But interested to see how this plays out. But they really need to speed up this story. I'm going to be honest. We end up getting another match. We end up getting Stephanie McMahon versus Io Sky. This match ended up becoming official due to them having a backstage segment. They ended up mentioning their last match ending in the disqualification and how both wrestlers end up assuming that they would have won the match. So they end up making the match official tonight. They have the match. Of course, it ends up being another DQ finish. The Secret Service comes out, attacks Stephanie Vaquer. Io Sky ends up getting the upper hand. Then you get Naomi. She comes out. She ends up attacking Io Sky. Then you get Rhea Ripley coming out for the save. And of course, you know the baby faces stand tall against the heels. Not really much to go here. This was just to build multiple stories at once. You get the Secret Service building their story with Stephanie Vaquer. And then you get Rhea Ripley, Io Sky, and Naomi building their story towards the triple threat at SummerSlam. Simple storytelling to build multiple matches into one segment. Not really mad at it. It was a good match that they had between Io Sky and Stephanie McMahon. Nothing really much more to go off here. Now we get the main event. We get Roman Reigns. He confronts Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins' faction. He basically ends up mentioning, Paul Heyman betraying him, mentioning, the bloodline, and how Paul Heyman took all the credit for the bloodline, and how he ends up giving props to, he gave props to the Usos, to Sami Zayn, how they helped him achieved him holding the title for 4 years. He ends up mentioning Braun Breaker, how he shouldn't trust Paul Heyman because he's going to do the same to you, and that he's going to betray you and take all the credit as well. Then he ends up mentioning how he trusted Paul. He brought him into the family. He made him a part of the family, and how he threw it all away just for CM Punk, a guy that he hasn't had communication over a decade. Then you end up getting Braun Breaker constantly about to confront Roman, because throughout the promo, Roman Reigns kept calling Paul Heyman a dumbass, and Braun Breaker kept getting offended by that. Then you end up getting Braun Breaker. He finally gets on the microphone and basically ends up saying that Roman is the past, he's the future, and that he needs to leave the ring. Roman ends up attacking both Bronson and Braun, but they end up getting the upper hand. That's when you get Jey Uso comes out for the save. They end up taking out Seth Rollins' faction. They end up both hitting a spear at the same time, and they stand tall. Overall, this was a great Raw. This is one of the best Raws of the year. I wish Raw was like this more consistently. Now, Raw is a very consistent show, but this was a great show. I wish SmackDown could deliver this type of entertainment weekly, but this was a great overall show. Very excited. This build at SummerSlam has been good. Starting off with Raw, because SmackDown was not good. SmackDown was trash, but hopefully they continue this trajectory. But overall, you let me know your overall thoughts, opinions down below. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. But yeah, that's it.